Hey guys, Popcorn Recaps here. In today's video, I will be telling you the story of the psychological horror film, Oculus. Spoilers ahead, enjoy the video. The story begins in a scene where two young children named Tim and Kaylee are hiding from a man holding a gun. Terrified at the man, they start running towards a door trying to escape when suddenly, Tim starts to shout when he sees a woman in a dress who seemingly has white glowing eyes. The man with the gun finds them, and then the camera rotates showing another man holding the gun until a gunshot is fired. Soon we later find out that the man last holding the gun is a grown-up Tim. All of that is a part of his nightmare. Tim is being treated in a mental institution because he believes that there is a supernatural force that caused his dad to behave horribly. The doctor doesn't believe that and wants to make him see that his dad was just a bad, abusive man. Tim accepts this fact and is finally getting a recommendation to be released from the institution. The next scene shows a woman working for an auction firm together with her fiancé. This woman happens to be Tim's grown sister, Kaylee. The auction they are watching is for a mirror called Laser Glass and is sold for $10,000. Before leaving the mental institution, Tim gets a reminder from his doctor to guard himself from his sister Kaylee, as he says she did not receive treatment and was directed to foster care. After walking out, Tim and Kaylee reunite and have lunch together. Suddenly, Kaylee tells Tim that she found the mirror and has a few days to keep their promise of killing it. We then see a flashback of 11 years ago. The Russell family is moving into a new house. Tim and Kaylee are playing with their dog while their mother, Marie, is watching them. Meanwhile, their workaholic father, Alan, starts setting up his new home office. One of the things the movers carried into his office room is the laser glass. Marie looks shocked to see the mirror, but she can't deny how fascinating the mirror is. Going back to the present, Kaylee drops Tim off at a hotel room and tries to offer him to stay with them instead. Tim insists on staying in the hotel. She tells him she plans on doing it the next day and that she needs his help. In another flashback, we see their mother, Marie, looking at her C-section scar in a mirror. She gets into bed, tells her husband Alan about it, who comforts her by kissing her belly. Later that night, Alan goes downstairs and gets some snacks in the fridge. As he goes back to his room, he stumbles and sees an eerie woman. He turns the light in his office room and sees the spilled drink on his shirt from the mirror. At the present time, Kaylee is peacefully sleeping when she hears a dog barking. She goes into the hall only to find a strange mirror hanging in a room. She checks it, but when she turns back, she gets strangled by her father. She begins screaming and wakes up from her night terrors, but gets comforted by her fiancé, Michael, before falling asleep. The next day, Michael talks to Kaylee about the laser glass. He's wondering why it was ordered to be repaired when the head of the company didn't want to do so. He also confronts her about the corpse photos found on her computer. Kaylee asks Michael to give her time and patience on what she is going through. She kisses him and Michael accepts her situation. We see Kaylee entering a warehouse where the laser glass is found covered with a sheet. Kaylee convinces the warehouse worker that she will be driving the mirror to the repair center, and the man leaves. Kaylee uncovers the mirror and notices two human-shaped objects covered with sheets behind her. She speaks to the mirror, letting it know she intends to destroy it. Then she catches sight of the two objects behind her turned into three. One of them moves. She slowly walks towards the objects and pulls the sheets off the two of them. She almost pulls the sheet of the third object when the worker comes back and startles her. When she looks back, there were only two statues and the third object is nowhere to be found. While the workers carry the mirror into Kaylee's car, Tim calls her to apologize, and when he asks her for the address, gets shocked when he hears her say that their meeting place is at their old home. In another flashback, we see Marie getting ready to water the plants, but shocked to see they're all dead. Meanwhile, Kaylee plays laser tag with her brother and then notices that a woman's rubbing her dad's chest, but in the blink of an eye, she disappears. During dinner, Alan seems to be aloof while chewing his nails. He unintentionally injures his fingers and puts on a bandage. Kaylee opens up a conversation about the woman she saw in Alan's office. However, Alan denies and tells her that there was no woman there. Going back to the present, Tim and Kaylee arrive at their old home. Kaylee lets her dog out of a cage. Tim finds it amusing that Kaylee didn't give a name for the dog. She asks Tim to help her carry the covered mirror inside their father's old home office, where he notices tons of cameras and computers set up and a strange device on the ceiling. Kaylee lets him know it's a kill switch. She gives Tim a choice to leave as she is about to begin, but he says he will stay for a little bit. Kaylee turns on the camera and introduces herself and Tim before explaining the details of her setup precautions. The precautions involve power sources for her computers and cameras, alarms to remind her to change tapes, and for eating and drinking, and thermometers to monitor changes in each room. She wants to prove that the mirror possesses a supernatural entity. Kaylee seems to be so ready, as though she has been waiting for this moment her whole life. She shows Tim the horrifying photos showing the corpses of the previous victims that she printed off of her work computer. As the timer goes off, they sit down and eat. Tim is very curious on what Kaylee wants to prove on her tapes. Kaylee says she wants to prove that their father was a victim of this deadly mirror. Kaylee and Tim enter an argument, resulting in her slapping Tim. He believes that their father was just a sick man and that led Tim to shoot him to death, to which Kaylee opposes and reiterates that she wants to prove that they were all victims of the Lasser glass. Tim wonders why they don't just destroy the mirror now. Kaylee confidently tells Tim to try if he can, and the movie transitions to a quick flashback where Kaylee and Tim smashes the mirror with golf clubs. Tim stops his plan to break the mirror with a stool and points out to Kylie that she is just paranoid, and this is her way of coping from the incident. Suddenly, Kaylee notices the stool is out of Tim's hand and tells him that the mirror has certain defenses to avoid human attack. Only one person attempted to destroy it with a fire poker, but stopped and killed himself by walking into traffic. Tim explains he did not break it because he wants Kaylee to snap out of her delusional world. Kaylee then shows how the kill switch works, which is an axe attached to the ceiling and is connected to an egg timer. The axe swings down into the center of the mirror when the timer isn't reset every half hour. In a flashback, horrifying things are happening to Alan in his office, from gripping his bandage out of his finger only to find out he's digging into his own finger, drawing blood, and accusing his children of moving his things from his office. In the present, Kaylee tells Tim that the mirror consumes energy from plants and animals, which is the reason she brought the dog and live plants in the house. She wants to prove it by putting the dog in front of the mirror and covering it in a cage while she records what will happen next. This is a recreation of what happened in the past, when Russell's family dog, Mason, suddenly becomes ill. In Alan's office, Marie is arguing with her husband about the lack of safety with the gun Alan just bought, which makes her upset, and when leaving the room she hears Alan calling her a grotesque cow, and when confronted, says that he did not say anything. Strange things start happening that night with the dog as Marie gets bit by the dog, and when coming next to Alan's office, she overhears someone else talking in the room only to find that there is nobody else there, and then quickly starts arguing with her husband loudly, waking up Kaylee. The next day, Alan leaves his family to go golfing with his client and warns his children to stay out of his office. Meanwhile, Marie becomes more and more annoyed by Mason's unstoppable loud barking in front of Alan's office, so she angrily locks him inside, and as soon as Alan gets home and unlocks the door, the dog is gone. Tim tells Kaylee that she is wrong and that Mason was taken to the vet because he was sick. Kaylee seems to think that Tim has been brainwashed. They both argue about the incident and how different their memories about it are. Tim insists that her memories are all made up and that what happened to their parents was just a case of a failed marriage. They keep arguing and arguing until Tim has had enough and lets the dog out of its cage and points to the live plants, showing Kaylee that there is nothing harming them but her. Kaylee is about to turn the cameras down when she sees the dead plants in the house and that the cameras have been turned away from the mirror. And when reviewing the footage, they see that they are the ones who actually moved the cameras without noticing or remembering it. Meanwhile, Tim attempts to call his doctor outside the house, but finds out that he never reached outside and had crouched in the hallway. In the flashback, Tim and Kaylee are alerted by some loud sounds of the vacuum and see their mother standing in front of the mirror staring at it not moving. The struggles of their mother continues as they all sit at the dinner table without Alan, while Marie drinks the whole bottle of wine. Paranoia grows quickly on Marie when she asks her children to tell her more about the woman in Alan's office. Kaylee lies about not seeing her, however. Tim is not able to conceal the truth. After dinner, she tells her children to play upstairs. She enters Alan's room and sees a paper doodled with the name Marisol. Devastated by what she discovered, she shoves all the things off of Alan's desk. She then cleans and sees the broken frame of her family's photo. She gets so emotionally furious that she throws an object that almost hits the mirror, and suddenly lights go off. She walks towards the mirror and stops, then sees her reflection moving as it slowly unbuttons her dress, revealing her C-section scar, and looks back at her with white evil eyes. She screams in fear, which alerts the children who run into the office, and when Tim approaches her, she turns back and tries to strangle him, but Kaylee manages to free him. Marie chases her children and Alan comes home and tries to calm Marie down, but instead, she grabs his head and Alan pulls her arms away and gets her in a chokehold. He tells Kylie and Tim to go back inside and starts to call 911. However, the light flickers and he hears a voice and hangs up. He then drags Marie away and walks down the hall with a chain and a crowbar. Kaylee tries to comfort Tim, but the sequence is then cut short as we are now back in the present. Tim watches Kaylee setting up the cameras again the way they were, but is distraught by the fact that he sees the image of Kaylee on the computer screens, as if she was standing right in front of the cameras, another illusion of the mirror it seems. The light flicks, and we are back in the flashback with Alan, who tells the children that their mother is sick and just needs to rest for a little while, and that they can play inside the office, which Tim thinks is strange as they were not allowed in there before. Back again in the present, it is time for Kaylee and Tim to eat as the alarm went off. As Kaylee replaces the light, she reaches for her apple, and after one bite, she finds out that she has bitten into a light bulb. She tries to pull a piece of it out of her bleeding mouth, but when Tim appears, she realizes that it was actually her apple she had bitten. She then tells Tim they should stay together. Young Tim is watching cartoons when the TV turns to static. The two siblings look for food and find nothing in the fridge. Kaylee furiously heads to confront his father and tells him to go shopping. She insists that they need to call a doctor for their mother. Alan doesn't seem to be paying attention, so Kaylee impatiently leaves and decides to go upstairs. Hungry and out of food, she decides to go tell her mother, even if her dad forbids it. As she enters her mother's room, she sees pieces of glasses on the floor and reaches for it, when suddenly her mother lunges at her. She sees her mother chained to the wall by her neck and is missing some teeth. Kaylee, frightened by that horrible sight, runs away from the room. She then comes back to her father's office and demands they call a doctor. Alan gets infuriated for not listening to him and grounds both of them. Kaylee sneaks a phone book and calls a doctor, but cannot get through as absolutely all the doctor she calls tells her to have her father call instead, all with the same voice. Kaylee walks up the lawn and knocks on their front door with one of their neighbors. He apologizes and tells the neighbor that Kaylee's using her mother's illness to behave this way. Alan's hand shows blood all over his fingers as if he almost completely chewed his nails. He looks up at Kaylee, and Kaylee tells Tim that they need to be brave. One can then see in the present, Kaylee standing in front of the mirror sleeping as the kill switch countdown decreases. She then realizes what's happening and runs to reset the kill switch timer, almost impressed at what the mirror tried to do. Night approaches and Tim is upstairs, having a quick flashback of his younger self. Then suddenly lights go out, and we can see younger Tim yells for young Kaylee, but we see the adult Kaylee walking downstairs with a lamp, turning on some emergency lamps throughout the house and also smashing a pot. She goes upstairs as young Tim walks down past her. She sees broken ceramic and chains and convinces herself it isn't real. Young Tim opens the office door and sees a scary woman with white eyes hunched behind Alan. He screams and runs back upstairs, where he hides and locks himself in his room as the older Tim watches on the other side of the room. Kaylee sees broken plates all over the floor, then picks up a piece and uses the camera on her phone to check if it is real. She finds out that the shards do not show up on the camera, and as she turns back, she sees her mother and quickly stabs her in the neck with the broken plate. What she realizes soon is that it was actually her fiancé she stabbed. Tim comes down and sees him. Kaylee is unsure if it was real or not since she is getting a call from her fiancé at this very moment. She is convinced that this is fake since the plate isn't real, so she couldn't have used it to kill him. But a nearby smashed pot puts doubt in her mind, so she decides to use her camera to look at the body, and it shows up. She breaks down into tears. Tim takes Kaylee outside and dials 911. Kaylee wants to go back inside, but Tim convinces her to wait for the kill switch to go off, and she agrees, but suddenly all the lights in the house return, and they see themselves in the room with the mirror in front of them. They both think it's a trick, and Tim calls 911 again, and gets the response that he needs to have his father call in the same voice as in the flashback. Kaylee breaks the phone, clueless of what they should do at this point. In a flashback, Alan is in the office in front of the mirror. He pulls a gun out and starts to load it. Tim tells Kaylee about it and decides they are going to have to smash the mirror. Adult Tim and Kaylee enter the room with the mirror and see a ghoulish woman speaking with their father's voice. Kaylee holds Tim's hand, convincing him that it's not real, and sees young Tim holding her hand as it pulls away and runs. The woman smiles at adult Kaylee, and young Kaylee is seen following young Tim. Young Kaylee and Tim run upstairs, locking themselves in their room. In their mother's room, Marie breaks a plate and begins eating one of the pieces. The door opens, and Alan walks inside carrying a gun. She tries to lunge at him, but he puts the gun under her chin, as though it tamed her. He then sets her free, and she slowly stands up. Meanwhile, adults Tim and Kaylee are in the bathroom, unsure of what is real and what isn't. Tim soon opens the door and sees Marie on the other side. Young Kaylee and Tim lock the bathroom as they hear their mother banging on the door. Kaylee decides to open the door and orders Tim to just run for it and leave the house. They then bravely open the door and run down the hall. Marie lunges at them and Kaylee hits her with a golf club. Tim runs downstairs but finds Alan in front of the office, while Kaylee runs down the hall and into her mother's room as she opens the window and jumps out. She hurts her leg after landing and limps to the front yard where she notices two ghoulish-looking people standing in the window smiling. Adult Tim hides behind a corner and watches his dad, now with white eyes, walking down the hall with a gun in his hand. Tim tries to convince himself that it's not real, but Alan then fires the gun at him. Young Kaylee now goes back into the house, but we see adult Kaylee instead. She walks into the room where she sees the mirror and her fiancé's corpse standing in front of it with a smile. She starts calling out for Tim. Young Kaylee walks down the hall when Marie lunges at her, knocking her to the ground. She starts strangling her and starts to slowly releases her grip as though she had come to her senses, but Alan shoots Marie from behind. Kaylee then grabs Tim and they start running. Alan finishes Marie while being surrounded by corpses of the past victims of the mirror. Kaylee and Tim hide behind a door and start to run towards Alan's office where they begin smashing the mirror with a golf club, but soon later find out they are only smashing the wall around it. Alan enters the room and points the gun at Kaylee. Tim strikes Alan's arm, knocking the gun down. Alan tries to strangle Kaylee, but lets her go as Tim has the gun and yells at him. Alan turns around and kneels in front of Tim. He points the gun at himself and wraps his fingers around the trigger as the shot's fired. Alan falls back, cracking the mirror, and dies. Corpses of the past victims now surround Kaylee and Tim, pressuring them against the wall, and as they open their mouths, they hear the alarm sound. Adult Tim is in the same room with the mirror, covering his ears while he shouts for Kaylee. We then see young Kaylee in the office and see Marie in the mirror. She approaches her and melts inside her mother's warm embrace. Meanwhile, Tim, not letting another chance go by, sets off the kill switch and later finds out that Kaylee was in front of it and gets killed by the kill switch. The mirror appears to be safe from harm. Tim starts sobbing, remembering their promise to destroy the mirror and make things right. Police show up at their house, and Tim gets arrested as we see the police looking at the recorded footage where we see Tim activating the kill switch while Kaylee was standing in front of the mirror. While sitting inside the police car, Tim sees the corpse of his family outside the house's window. The mirror wins once again, and there you have it. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more movie recaps like this. Good night.